Welcome to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share stories of resilience and tools for resilience. This week, we've got Michael, a former Atlanta-based cocaine dealer, who's going to tell us all about the drug trade, as well as how he turned his life around and became a pastor. That's right, drug dealer to a pastor. Let's hear all about it.
Michael, welcome to Shit Creek Survivors. Thank you so much for coming on. Michael and I met a kind of funny way. I was actually upstairs. I'm working on the podcast, all that kind of stuff. The doorbell rings. I open the door and I see Michael standing there, who I've never seen before. And he says, "Hey, I need to get in your backyard." And I go, "What do you mean?" and he obviously, I could tell then he was working for a company. He was trying to apply something to the yard. He was just moving and shaking. And I was like, "Are you sure you're at the right place?" And he's like, "Yeah, just open the gate." And I'm like, "Hold on a second." And then we figured it out. Oh, wrong address. But Michael, while he was standing there, said something. "Hey, I noticed you've got this sticker on your truck for Shit Creek Survivors and PTSD support. What's that all about?" And I kind of filled you in about the podcast and how we're trying to basically plant seeds whose shade we never plan to sit under. Really, what that means is, we're realizing we've been through our own kind of shit creek, if you will. That was kind of the start of the show, and it's just so amazing how different, and in some places so similar, people's walk through life are. And it's just so interesting to hear about so many different people from so many different places doing so many different things, who are running into issues, who are having to overcome things in life just like anybody else. Nobody, it seems, is separated from the pain or separated from the kind of like the struggle. And Michael was like, "Hey, I've got quite a story. If you've got an opportunity for me to share it." I heard a little bit about maybe dealing a little cocaine at one point in your life, and then something about finding yourself in seminary. Am I on the right lines?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So that was my best I could do, because we only talked for like 15, 20 seconds or something like that. But I gave you my card. I was like, "Send me an email if you're serious," and you did. So here we go. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from?
Oh man. So my name is Michael Joyner. I was born and not so much raised in Athens, Clark County, Georgia, home of the good old Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh yeah.
And I would say I kind of grew up a little spread out throughout the state. A little bit of Athens, a little bit of Lawrenceville, Forsyth County. I've kind of moved all over the state growing up. So I
All
guess
right.
I guess who I am. I would say I'm a loving father to a 5-year-old son, and I'm an assistant pastor to what I think is probably the best church in Bartow County, Georgia.
There we go. There we go. What church is that? We got to plug the church.
Oh man, you guys come on down and see us if you want to hear good sound doctrine preaching. Little church on a hill called People's Valley Baptist Church.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. We've had multiple people from multiple churches on here, and so this is turning into like a podcast for definitely getting the church's name out. Like different churches, like, there's so many, in Bartow County especially. There's so many, but they all have their own kind of culture, their own kind of like atmosphere, environment, and that's awesome. But I'm sure yours is the best. Not that you're partial or anything.
I think if I had to put it within the top, 1 to 10, I'd say we're a solid top 4.
There we
So
go. There we go. I believe it. I'll have to come check you guys out. So, so you grew up kind of like in the Georgia area, kind of like all about that sort of thing, and what was kind of like your experience? Like, did you play athletics in high school, or did you, what kind of like growing up high school era did you experience?
if I had to put it, so I didn't really grow up in the athletics. Honestly, man, I was really into skateboarding and I was really into playing guitar. Uh,
Awesome.
a lot of it, man, was just well, buddies and I would get together and grab a few cases of beer and you
Yeah.
know if we were too drunk to skate, we weren't intoxicated enough to play metal music, and that's yeah, you know.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I can definitely relate. So
Yeah.
you, so you kind of finished up with that era, and what did you do following high school? How did you kind of move in the direction? And I'll just let you take it from there.
Yeah. I guess where I could kind of begin to pinpoint where everything kind of began was I dropped out of high school, you know,
Okay.
just an all out flunky. I had no concern for school at all, really. And I moved down to my mom's, and just things were just not going very well. Um,
Okay.
so I ended up going to this trade school in Franklin, North Carolina, and I would say that's where like I came to the realization of, man, this isn't where people go to learn a trade. These kids are coming here and learning how to sell dope behind closed doors.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
it was insane. I have seen in a, and this is a government facility in Franklin, North Carolina. It is
Okay.
very monitored. People come into your room and they inspect your belongings, things of that nature.
Okay.
Long story short, man, I saw guys bring in anything from ice to cocaine to weed. They were hustling cigarettes by, I mean, it's like $1 a cigarette or something, like some outrageous price like that.
Dang.
Oh, yeah, I mean, man, I mean, if there was a hustle that could be done, these kids were doing it.
Okay.
And that's kind of where it started out from there, because I was like, man, you know, dude, I come up here, you know, this broke little white boy from Athens, Georgia, didn't know nothing,
Uh,
and I get up there, and I mean, I see these guys. I mean, man, these guys are probably, you know, some of them younger than me, some of them just a couple years older than me, pulling out just wads of cash
really?
in this school that, you know, we went to. I mean, yeah, they would pay you for work on campus, but it was like small increments, because it was, they were already providing you with housing and meals and things of that nature. So it was
Right.
really small increments of money that they would pay you. But I mean, these guys just always had cash. They always, and so I began to, I guess you could just say, study them from afar.
Okay.
Um, Long story short, I get out of this school, and I wind up in Boston, Massachusetts, of all cities. Wind up
Okay.
in Boston, Massachusetts, living with my uncle, and that really is where I began to like get into the game. I just noticed the money being made on the train lines. I mean, man, the T is what it's referred to as.
Yeah.
The money being made on these train lines was just insane, and I was working a landscape job at that point, and I was just like, man, I'm sick of this. I'm
Yeah.
sick of this. Finally, I quit my job. I said, I'm done with Massachusetts.
Okay.
Packed up and went home. And when I got home is really when hell broke loose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so I get a I get home, and at first it just kind of started out as like, you know, small increments of just weed. Um, you know, it'd be an ounce or two here, an ounce or two there, just to kind of make ends meet. I had a girlfriend at the time. We were living in this, it's like a microtel. It's awful.
Yeah, I know you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Just
we,
trying to get by, right?
yeah, just trying to get by. And you know, I began to grow more and more. Um, I smoked, but I wasn't addicted to the drug. I was addicted to the money.
Hmm.
And I began to just graduate towards, okay, I'm gonna take this little ounce, save up a little bit, get a QP, save up a little bit, say get a half, and I slowly began to progress. And then we we had an incident happen where we were in the hotel room, my girlfriend and I, and she comes to me and she's like, Mike, there's a gentleman outside that literally just informed me that the police had been watching our apartment for several months now. And this was Ackworth, Georgia. And we didn't know this guy from Adam, but when it finally got around, we basically we knew something was wrong. Something was why would this random gentleman have informed my girlfriend, who he doesn't know, amongst other individuals in the apartment complex? We knew he was either with the police or maybe he knew someone who was.
Right.
Um, I was probably 22, 23 at the time. And I can't risk this. We shut down shop for about 3 to 6 months. So fast forward to that point, I'm if I'm jumping too much in the gaps, I can.
No, you're doing great. And
Okay.
I find when I'm telling my story, I usually think I'm flying too, because you're like feeling it as you're going through it, you know? You're doing great, and I really appreciate it because
Thank
yeah,
you.
I mean,
Um,
it shows anybody can get into anything, and it's usually out of necessity. You know what I mean? It's like I need money, people are getting it, so why wouldn't I do this? You know what I mean? Like I totally get it. It makes total sense.
so we ended up living with my dad in Marietta. Fast forward to that point, and my girlfriend and I at the time had broken up. I went through just this crazy depression party stage, and I ended up meeting another young lady, and her and I were just partying together, messing around. It went from a fling to a relationship to a business partnership, just like that.
Got it.
And she starts coming over at just odd hours of the night. Um, well, before I go there, let me just kind of explain all this. Sorry, there's so much that I could
I
just say
gotcha.
here. So, uh, girlfriend before the business partner girlfriend. We'll just go back to there. We were both living with my dad at this point, and both of us were just flat broke. I was working a landscaping job, trying to just gather up any funds that we could to survive. We were completely out of the game. Things got hot over there.
Right.
That's why we ended up moving in the first place, in with my father. Um, Long story short, um, she and I break up. I go through this party stage. I'm just super depressed, going all out. And then I meet another young woman, and she began to kind of like gradually introduce me to her friend group. And I would say about that point was when things really began to take a massive change. Um,
Okay.
so we started hanging out with a crowd, and I noticed just every single one of them, it was beer and cocaine, beer and cocaine, beer and cocaine, just all the time.
Hmm.
And I had never really messed with it at that point before. I didn't really have an interest in doing it, to be honest with you. So she starts introducing me to this friend group, and we all just start partying together, going out. I'm in and out of Smyrna, Georgia, from Marietta, just going back and forth between one place to another, just partying on the regular.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, she comes to me and she's like, look, I want to take things to the next level, and with our relationship, and I I want to move in together. I've found an opportunity where both of us can live together. So I'll just refer to this woman as Miss J. Miss
Okay.
J. We end up meeting Miss J, and she she was a partier, man. She was a crazy alcoholic chick. I mean, had people over at all hours of the night, constantly using. The house was, I mean, it was a revolving door of people just coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And we were over there all the time, just drinking and having a great time. And finally, we moved in with Miss J, and next thing you know, Megan ends up losing her job. That was my girlfriend at the time. Megan ends up losing her job, and things just kind of got really tight on our
Mm-hmm.
finances. I was the only one working at the time. I was periodically, just selling small amounts of weed here and there just to make ends meet. Um, and finally, we got introduced to a guy at a local bar up there, and this is that we were living in Smyrna at this point.
Uh-huh.
I ended up meeting up with this guy, and I just told him, just straight up, look, this is what I need. I invested a pretty what was a substantial amount of money at that time to me. Um, I invested a certain amount of money, and he gave me my goods. I went home and I started like messing around on Google, messing around on different sites. Man, how do I cut this stuff up where it isn't visible? It's, I didn't, so finally I come across this product called inositol. And inositol, it is so basically it's something to do, it's like a dietary supplement, but it's a real crystally white, shiny material.
Okay.
It looks practically identical to cocaine.
Okay.
So I just started cutting up cocaine with a dietary supplement.
All right. So people are getting skinny and having a good time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
I
kidding.
mean,
I'm just kidding.
okay. So I come across that product, man. I start chopping it up. I start breaking everything down. Listen, this is what my dubs are gonna be. This is what you can get for a Benjamin. This is what it's gonna cost for an 8 ball. And things just took off. Yeah,
Okay.
literally in the blink of an eye, we went from just being like some small household, like nickel and dime type of people to we then had to leave the house that we were moving it out of and going over to a bar off of South Cobb Drive,
Right.
posting up at this bar and selling it there. And then we were like, okay, hey, maybe this is a good point. This is where the money really started rolling in. Well, what I didn't realize at this time is, you know, selling weed and selling cocaine are two significantly different bars.
Okay. How so?
Huh?
How so?
So I would say you deal with the clientele selling weed that you're dealing with people that are chill, relaxed, they're not really looking for any trouble unless you kind of get into the higher quantities.
Right.
Um, I never, when it came to weed, I never really got into the higher quantities. I was more of I'd say if I had to put an exact number amount on it, I probably move maybe at the most like 5 pounds at a time. I
Yeah.
Not a very significant number. No, not a big dog in the game. You know,
Right.
um, it's when you get into moving coke when it becomes extremely risky because then you deal with not only a lot of cutthroat people, but you deal with a more violent, a more I just describe it as a hostile environment, man.
That makes
People
sense.
people treat you like a vending machine that if their product gets stuck in it, they're just gonna beat the hell out of it until they get it out of you. Um,
Right.
it's an industry of a lot of mental abuse. It's an industry of you stop looking at people as people and you look at them as a numeric.
Yeah.
Um, at that point, you're no longer running a small mom and pop business. You're treating it like a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
You don't do for me. Okay, go to hell. There's another junkie down the street. Go
Right.
buy somebody else. I don't care. You know. Um,
That's a really good point. Even being a former police officer, I knew that, but it's hard to kind of like, bring that up and really recognize it that yeah, and like the weed game, first off, when you're dealing with a pound of weed, it's a pretty good amount of quantity, but when it comes to the amount you're actually able to sell and the money you could generate, it's much lower, right? Compared to like a pound of cocaine. But that makes total sense that kind of like your weed smokers, your typical get an eighth, get an ounce, get that kind of thing, that caliber of customer is going to be a lot different. Like compared to like the guy who you just said, like if you get between him and his fix, it's a problem. You know what I mean? They're not able to see you as the in between. They're like, no, you're my pro. You know what I mean? And that's interesting that you said that. Thank you. That's cool.
so one of the things that I think a lot of law enforcement should be aware of nowadays is the money that's involved.
Hmm.
Matt, people people don't realize you can buy a pound from out west for $650 to $1,000
Yeah.
being your absolute highest price,
Right.
and then sell it for 2,000 to 2,500 here in the state of Georgia. And
Yeah. I was. It,
that's what I was doing.
wow.
Um,
Okay.
but the thing of it is you go out and buy, and now mind you, we're talking only 448 grams of cannabis. That's the exact number of a pound, 448 grams.
Right.
You can take 1 ounce of cocaine, and throw a quarter of cut on it, and you've taken it from 28 to +7.
Yeah.
And you can then sell those grams for $100 a gram and end up with over $3,000.
Yeah. And you're carrying around less. It doesn't stink as much.
Exactly, exactly. The,
Yeah.
the cost of it is, you look at it and you're like, oh man, but it's $1,000 an ounce. Yeah, it's $1,000 an ounce, but by the time you break it down and you cut it up,
Yeah.
really what you're handing someone for $100, they're only getting about $40 worth of actual product, and the rest is cut.
Really. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the business numerics.
It's so interesting. Are you kidding me? Like, this is so interesting the way you're explaining it, the way it's like, that makes total sense. And people need to understand kind of it is a business. You know what I mean? Like it is a means to make money. Um,
It's a businessman, but the life itself is hell.
Is
Uh,
it?
yeah, it's awful. Um, yeah,
What?
I'll kind of go into that, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, what do you mean by that? Like,
So, man, I'll tell you. So when I came to a really hard realization one day, and I was in the midst of my living room, just kind of chilling out one morning, and a friend of mine comes in, and I had been so overwhelmed from the amount of stress we had had. Um, my roommate, Miss J, had just gotten into a really bad car accident at this time, and police were just in and out of the neighborhood. I had gotten into some physical altercations with a guy at the bar and a guy that came and visited our house. Just it was just a really bad month in the business, to be honest with you, man.
okay,
And, my friend comes in the room and she's like, "Hey, Mike, how are you doing this morning, sweetie?" She had stayed the night. We had all gotten pretty messed up the night before, and I break down and I'm like, how the f would you feel if you knew that you were poisoning people and poisoning your significant other for a living? And the weight of that just hit me all at once, and I just began to just tear up because not only was I selling it to people, but I was watching my girlfriend Megan at the time actively use.
okay,
And I would just let her do it. I wouldn't even care. It was just like, here, whatever, go ahead, do whatever you're gonna do.
right,
And the weight and the sheer guilt of that hit me like a 9 pound hammer to the chest. And the stress that life causes you is, I'll give you a few different examples. Um, we were on our way to a bar one night and we got pulled over. And now, mind you, I kept my stash in a really inappropriate place, tucked in a certain area that I'm not going to describe on your channel, but
okay.
it was tucked.
Well,
It,
yeah,
it
it
was
hidden well.
Yeah, very well. So we get pulled over on the way to this bar one night, man, and I got it tucked in, and it's just hanging out, and the cop comes up to the window. We're just casually talking. Long story short, we get pulled over between our house and there, and he comes up to the car. I got it tucked up, tucked. He goes in. He searches Megan's purse. They haul her off to jail. She had, I don't know, probably $300-400 in product, just casually chilling in her purse like an idiot. Uh,
Really? Yeah.
so that was a major stress because then we knew not only did they recognize our vehicle, they knew the neighborhood it was coming from.
Right.
Um, Another situation was we had just resupplied one night, and I mean, mind you, we probably had, if I had to guess, between like $4,000 and $5,000 worth of product in the house. She decides to drive home from our local bar one night and gets pulled over by the police. And mind you, we had resupplied not one, not two, not three, four officers back to back, all out in front of our house.
And you're just sitting inside.
Yeah, we're just sitting inside. We're sitting
Yeah.
inside, cleaning the whole place up, spraying it down because we had just gotten stoned a little while ago.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, man, if they would have come through the door, there's not a person in there that wouldn't have spent a night in jail. Every
Right.
one of us would have gone down the road. Um, Another instance I can think of would probably be there was a gentleman that came to our home one night and he and I got into a physical altercation because of some bad product that I sold him.
Mm.
Well, you sell bad things and you get bad results, and that's just how the business goes. Um, so I mean, yeah, man, it's an extremely stressful lifestyle, and I would say outside of the negative occurrences, as far as the physical altercations and law enforcement goes, man, I would say it's the mental stress. It's the destruction that you're causing within yourself because you become numb to other human beings' emotions. You become uh, very spiteful, very vindictive, very hateful. There's just an abundance of negative words that I could use to describe it, but it's it's not just what takes place within the day-to-day routine. It's how you deteriorate emotionally.
Yeah. Do you? So I would assume you were kind of like watching your back all the time. And I can only imagine from my experience with PTSD where it feels like someone's coming after you, but no one is. You know what I mean? That's kind of like an issue with PTSD. But man, is it exhausting the idea of like entertaining those thoughts, like the whole idea, if they're coming, how are they coming? Where are they coming? How are they going to come? How am I going to defend myself? What am I going to have to do? What am I willing to do? Where am I going to run to? All that, like you create this like just panorama view of like everything that could go wrong. And you're tapping into what negative things you've seen people do in these circumstances. Sometimes that happens as a police officer too. Like I've said it to other cops before and other individuals, and they get it. Like when you're a police officer, someone only gets the drop on you one time in your career. It's not happening again. If you're like early on in your career and you go into a building and you're looking for somebody and you didn't check a corner and that person actually had the drop on you and could have taken you out in that moment, that's not happening again, because you need to get home. So unfortunately, you start stacking, well, I've seen people do this, I've seen people do this, I've seen people do this, and you're dealing with them at when they're at their peak level of aggression sometimes, and I can only imagine that that applies in that environment as well. You know what I mean? You're the person who has what they want. You got to, you're asking for money in exchange for it, at the same time, that if these people could, they would probably, if they had the drop on you, they would be more than happy to take it without paying for it. I would assume that's a worry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, they know the people that you care about and all this kinds of stuff. So I'm just like making up stuff on my own in my head, but I can only imagine it could be so stressful. So you're sitting there in the living room, it hits you like a ton of bricks right in the chest that, you know, you're coming to grips with the idea that what you're selling is hurting the people around you. Is that correct? That's correct?
Yes. So, and I think a lot of people at that point, they would expect, a twist in the story, um, some type of positive outtake. I would say in this situation, I just became more more cold and more business oriented.
Okay.
So at that point, I kind of realized, okay, you know, you're doing something that's really wrong. You've got to make sure you do it really good.
Okay.
Um, we end up getting linked up through Miss J, a individual that was
They're
we
for real.
we could get anything we wanted. We could
Yeah.
we she was the dope man's girlfriend.
Hmm.
So Miss J is dating this gentleman, and all of a sudden, the weight just comes flying in, as far as the quantity of product goes.
Okay.
We go from just, an ounce or so here or an ounce or so there at the bar to, okay, I got to pay the bartenders to be quiet. I'm going to give them, 25, 50, $100 tips every other night of the week.
Hmm.
I'm going to deal with one bartender or a couple of waitresses. I always sit in their section. I always sit in an area where I've got eyes on both of the doors on who comes in and who comes out. Um, Friends within the kitchen that had a lookout on the back of the parking lot because they went out there and smoked cigarettes. They had a little section off. The bar kind of went like a. If I had to describe it, it was like a D. Yeah, goes like this. Goes like this. There's a back section here. There's a long porch section here, and there's two broad sides to the parking lot. And
Okay.
the cooks would be able to go outside and they would keep an eye on things. And things kind of began to progress because it went from, just this, few $100s a night to, hey man, we were clearing every bit of, sometimes 2 and 3 grand in an evening. Um,
That's good money. I mean, I do have to say that's good money. Did the with the money, did the nerves go up even further?
the stress intensifies, but you begin to care less
Okay.
as you then realize, yeah, they can take me to jail for a night, but I have the money to get out.
Hmm.
And I have the money for, we kept somebody always on call. I mean, we had somebody, hey, look, an attorney retained.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
that's one thing that in that industry again, it's a given, man. It's look, if you're gonna be in this business, you've got to be prepared for the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both she and I kept money tucked away for a rainy day fund.
Okay.
Um, so as it began to grow in this bar and business began to uh, just skyrocket, I then came across some other issues. We started having an issue with transportation, but then I realized the the average junkie would rather work for the product versus work for compensation that's going to get them the product.
Okay.
So the white was their compensation, or the green, whichever. We began to hire people to drive us around.
Ah, okay.
Um, the white white Hyundai Sonata, green Nissan Altima, and a black Mitsubishi SUV.
Yeah.
I remember all three of the vehicles, man, all three of the vehicles. And these crummy looking little cars went
Hmm.
all over Smyrna, Georgia, and made thousands of dollars, thousands of dollars. Man, we were driving by Smyrna PD at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, piss drunk, tons of cocaine on us, and it was just, hey man, I don't care about them. I own this town. That was the type
Oh,
of mentality that we had. Very very smug, very ignorant. Again, that when you begin to treat it in a business mindset, you grow very very proud.
yeah.
Um, and I guess over the course of about 3 to 5 years there, things operated very, very well. There was always an abundance of money. There was always product to be distributed. And finally, another heavy emotional event takes place. My my girlfriend at the time decides to go off to Schenectady, New York, and have an affair, or I guess to cheat. In other words, that's where she was from originally.
Sorry.
Hey, is what I mean. Hey, believe it or not, her and I are very very good friends now. Love her to death. Haven't spoken to her in a long time, but there's no more ill feelings. We're past that point.
Okay.
So I fell into a very, very heavy state of depression, and it began to just get my hatefulness began to grow more and more towards people. I took my negative emotions out on the clients that we had already.
Okay.
They would come into the home. It would be, if we weren't at the bar, they would come to the home, or we would meet them, and obviously just in a variety of different areas throughout town. Um, they would come into the home, and I would make it as uncomfortable as possible for them. There would be a 9 millimeter, a Digitech scale, and a bag right in front of me, and I would literally sit behind this. It was like a dresser. I just treated it as an office desk.
Oh, really? Okay.
What do you want? Thank you. Get out of my house.
Okay.
They would come in one door, they would come into the front door, and they would exit off to the side over and over and over and over again. And I then began to become more and more hateful towards the people at the bar. I began to mistreat these people and again talk to them in ways that they ought not to be spoken to, even if they are, an addict or, somebody like that. Sorry, this part's really difficult to explain because I began to do a lot of things that I'm not very proud of. Um,
Take your time.
yeah,
Sh-
yeah.
share what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, man, you're gonna hear the whole story. I mean, this is like I said, this is a part of my life that I think if I didn't go through it, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. I wouldn't be the minister that I am today. So I'm very thankful for the season of trials and tribulations that I went through. Um,
Awesome.
so I end up in this apartment where the big individuals that we were doing business with, hung around, and I end up at this apartment, and I walk in, and he takes out this I don't know how to describe it. It's like a miniature Rubbermaid roller tray. It was like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to do on screen, but it was a decent sized roller tray. He brings this thing out,
Like a cart? Like a cart kind of thing?
like it was probably around, I'd say around like 2.5, maybe 3 feet in length, and probably about two yeah 2 feet in width, and then it was about I would say probably maybe 6 inches deep.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
So he brings this thing out, and I'm looking at the guy that we get supply from, because he had just brought me with him. He's like, "Hey, come on, man, I want to introduce you to some people." I'm like, okay. And I was the only white boy in this apartment. The only white boy in this apartment. I was terrified. I was absolutely scared to death, man. I did not know how to handle that situation. Um, so he brings me in, and this guy, he just like casually breaks it out, and I look over at it, and I like looked at him, and he looks at me, and I'm like, is that meth? And he's like, yeah. This man had two of these things filled to the brim, with I don't know how many pounds of ice. I
Oh,
truly,
wow.
I mean, if I had to put a number on it, I mean, it had to be above in the double digits.
Yeah.
Just insanity.
Yeah.
Um, and I looked at him and I was like, "Hey, man, what does something like that go for?" And he started breaking down the numbers to me and stuff like that. So I bought a little bit off of him. I was like, okay, whatever, man. I think I picked up like a half an ounce or an ounce or something like that. Just to see what type of numerics I can make off of it. Well, I learned quickly that I didn't have a clientele for that stuff. No one wanted it.
Gotcha.
And man, that stuff is gross. I don't want to mess with that. People lose their teeth, people lose their minds.
Right.
That's something I don't want to deal with. And it's like, okay, fine. Well, I think your nose is bleeding, brother.
No.
No? Okay.
Nope. Let me go check. Wouldn't that be funny? We're talking about Coke and my nose starts bleeding.
So I realized, hey man, I don't really have a clientele for this,
Hmm.
but I've got to get rid of it somehow. And I started busting this stuff up and putting it into the Coke we were distributing.
Hmm.
And I noticed people just kept calling and kept calling and kept calling and kept calling.
Hmm.
And I realized, like, okay, man, you're treading into some dark waters. Like this is, something like this, man. This could stop somebody's heart. This could seriously injure somebody. And I mean, I knew this the entire time. Again, I didn't care. Um, Finally, I had gotten rid of it, and business had gotten even better. And I just continued doing it. I
Gotcha.
continued I continued mixing one thing with another to build the clientele.
Does that work money wise? Meaning, can you cut it with ice and you profit compared to like if you're cutting it with something more expensive, like you wouldn't? You know what I mean? Uh,
So with ice, we have to realize ice is a much cheaper product than
manufacturer. Yeah.
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 And so I mean, honestly, man, the small it'll just keep you up longer. The small amounts that I was buying here and there, um, you it wasn't really making much of it wasn't hurting my pockets. If anything, I was gaining from it.
Okay. That's what I was curious about.
They
Yeah.
began to get more addicted to the so-called substance that they just thought they were getting. Um,
Okay.
but in all actuality, it was me saying, okay, I can take this amount of Coke, this amount of cut, and a small amount of ice, and make this little super batch up and go to the bar, and everybody's got go-go powder for the rest of the night.
Yep.
And that's just what it was. I'm gonna just kind of take a big leap here in the story because a lot of it's just so many different things took place during that time that we could spend hours discussing that. Um, my a very dear younger friend of mine ends up moving in with me, and he's living with us, and he's just, I mean, mind you, this kid had never done like a wrong thing in his entire life, man. He was such a good soul. Young kid by the name of Taylor, and he moves in with us, and he's driving me around. I'm paying for his meals at the bar. I'm paying for his drinks. Just hey, look, man, look, dude, you keep the wheels on the road, dude, and you keep this gravy train in motion. The one thing they're not going to mess with, they're not going to mess with a scrawny little white boy with a little country town tag, and a country accent. They ain't going to mess with this kid.
Right.
The only person they're going to look at in that vehicle is me. Um, and we kept this up for about after he moved in. We kept this up for over a year, I would say. And I mean, I exposed this young man to just so many bad things. I mean, whether it was both of us experimenting with psychedelics, we played around with a lot of acid. Um, Not really so much distribution, more just personal consumption. Pretty much just made this kid like my right hand in the business, and he just kind of went with it. And he witnessed so much, uh, from fist fights to me bringing a gun into the living room when a large amount of product went missing, and we had a crowd of people in the living room. I became a very violent person because of the greed that just consumed me. And this poor kid, man, I mean, he witnessed every bit of it, and he didn't deserve to endure what he did endure. And I still eat that to this day. It still bothers me, to be honest with you, man, to sit back and think like, man, this young kid from middle of nowhere, Conyers, Georgia, you know, he didn't know nothing about this life. And he went from living out in the middle of the boonies with his dad and, having a good old time. And next thing you know, you brought him straight into the pits of hell. And, I think about him sometimes. I haven't spoken to him in years. He still refuses to speak to me. I don't blame him, to be honest with you. I don't. Um, about that time, uh, Taylor and I, we were on our way to Conyers to go stay for a weekend down at his dad's. And I broke down, and I was just like, man, I'm tired of doing this. And Taylor was just like, Mike, you gotta get the hell away from this stuff, dude. And I was like, man, you just don't understand. I can't. They're expecting me to make money. They're expecting me to continue because at that point, um, the roommate Miss J that I had mentioned, she and her boyfriend they were gone all the time, man. They were drinking. They took vacations to California. I, I was I was the foot soldier at that point. I was I was the one getting down in the muck. I was the one doing all of the business, all of the finances. I had every dollar and nickel dialed in from. You could have asked me a question of something that, oh, what was the income 6 months ago? Well, I can tell, I don't know the exact number, but I can tell you that it's probably, we're making exactly $3,000 more just off the top of my head. But I had that number written down.
Right.
But and it was hard to explain to a young kid like himself, you know, you, you just don't walk away from this. You don't just get up and quit. you
Right.
know that's how people end up getting beaten up and accused of snitching and things of that nature. I mean, there's so many variables involved.
Hmm.
And so we stayed gone for about 2 weeks. And this is truly when I feel like the Lord began to step in at this point. This is where I think, I really now that I've had some time to marinate on everything that took place, I really feel like this is where the Lord really began to step in and give me some confirmation, some clear sight on just exactly how much destruction I was doing. Um, we go down and we stay in Conyers for about, I don't know, 2 weeks. We're working for a landscape company down there. I'm just living life. I'm just away.
Uh-huh.
You know, had money put away. Um, Everything was going fine. Yeah, we would occasionally go back and forth just to, if I had to take care of a bigger client or something like that. But I mean, for the most part, man, we had gotten it to the point to where it was making money for itself. Well, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Um, and I go up and I walk into my house and I left Conyers and I went back to my house and I walk in and I go and I grab my safe and I look at my safe and the sides of my safe had been burned as if someone tried to break into them. Now this safe, like I didn't really I didn't really keep large quantities of cash in there. I think maybe between like, you know, maybe 1,500, maybe like 3 grand or something like that was probably the most I kept in there. Just basically, at that point, that was just, hey, look, if you've got to go and pick something up, hey, look, you have a few $1,000s at your disposal to go and go and take care of that task. And I saw the safe and I'm like, man, no one else has been here. No, nobody else but Mrs. J and her friends have been here.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that somebody within their friend group or herself tried to rob me at this time. So I packed up and I moved out.
Right then and there.
Yeah, I left. I left the house. I mean, the house we were making money out of. I walked away from the transportation to and from the bars, and I ended up just moving to this little apartment down the street. And I picked up like a decent quantity of weed just to keep myself, some money afloat to where I can, at least until I can find a full time job. And I knew then that, hey man, your career is done in this. You walked away, you abandoned it. You know, she's gonna throw your name in the mud, and I'm sure she might have done that. I don't know. Um, I don't really care, to be honest with you. Uh, I end up coming across this guy, and he ends up introducing me to a to a greener industry, to a greener industry. And long story short, I meet him, and this dude is a grower. This dude, we hit it off at the bar. We were really cool. Man, me and this guy got along. I mean, it was like a peanut butter and jelly connection, is all I can describe it as. And he was like, "Yeah, man, you know, come link up with me." I'm like, okay. So my girlfriend and I, we kind of chit chatted about it, and she's like, "Mike, I think you should go. You could learn something here. Like this could be, you could potentially bounce back from your situation and I don't want to get a job. I was lazy, like and like,
Like all of us. Yeah.
like who wants to get a job after that point,
Right. Yeah.
I meet this dude and she and I start talking and he starts telling me, look, man, come over, come over. Look, I know your face card. I know your reputation in the area. You know, come talk to me. I'll teach you how to do this. And I'm like, okay. So I get out of one portion of hell in my life, and then I jump right back into another one.
That's the way it works from, yeah, just a smaller hell.
So um, I end up going over to his house, and at first, man, I'm thinking like, this guy is not as serious as he says he is, man. This is probably going to be like, a couple of big plants or something like that. No, man, I walked into a forest. Walked into an absolute forest. Like this.
Like,
this
how is this here?
like it was so it's so cool. He had so as you're I can describe it to a T, man. As you're coming up this dude's driveway, you'll look and you'll see his garage is right there. So when he opens up his garage, he created a 3-chambered room, one for infant, one for vegetative state.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And he created a 3-chambered room in this garage. And I mean, man, this dude had anything you could think of. I mean, if it was a flavor, he either could get his hands on it or he already had it. It was bonkers to me. I didn't know how to handle this because it's like me. I went from something the size of this could make you
Right.
$100 to no, man, it doesn't work that way. You got to sell something like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know he and I start talking, and he just kind of starts like gradually just fronting me small increments of small increments of product, and I just took it and run with it. And then he's like, "Hey, look, man, I appreciate what you're doing for me, but I want you to come work for me full time." And I mean that was when it was like I really started to learn some stuff about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved in with my dad for a short period of time, and as bad as this is to admit, I used my dad's house as a hub. Nice, nestled little house in Marietta, typical, extremely Caucasian suburban neighborhood. Nothing but a bunch of deputy do-rights walking around. It's no offense. I don't mean that in a
No,
mean.
no, 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 not at all. I was about to say the perfect situation. The perfect cover.
So I, I live with him, and I'm there for probably like 6 months to a year, not very long. And I was just kind of building up my knowledge, and the next thing you know, this is kind of like where the dude that was teaching me, I ended up screwing him over. Is what it is. I ended up going down to Athens and living down there, and I started doing my own thing down there. I also had a family member that was giving me a substantial amount of product, and I was just moving a decent, I just say some decent way. So then I repeated the bar idea that I was telling you about earlier. I basically repeated it's like little place in Forsyth County where I'd grown up for a few years. I was very familiar with the territory. And if there's one thing that I knew about Forsyth County is rednecks like to smoke weed when they're drunk.
Yeah.
Not all of them. I would just say a decent portion.
Yeah.
Um, and I went and sat at this bar, and I began the same thing over again. It never got to that scale like it was with the coke. I mean, no, it never got to that scale. But I began moving product out of there. And it got to a point to where I was leaving Athens, jumping on 129 and getting up towards Hall County. And I mean, I was moving anywhere between, five. I think the most I ever got up through that area was probably like 7 pounds. And I mean, at $25 or 2,500 a pound, it was just a substantial amount of money at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
And I end up meeting the love of my life in the process. Well, what was the love of my life? Um, I end up meeting the love of my life in the process, and she and I started doing business together. This is where the part of my story begins to go from, wow, you're a horrible individual, to things get really, really good, and it just changed so drastically. I'm gonna get in my little cover car, and I'm gonna park my nice Toyota 4Runner down at my mom's house, and I'm gonna get into this. It was a green Hyundai Accent, butt ugly car, it looked like a booger. It's so ugly, dude. So I would I would pack pounds in the back of this, and just haul it up to Hall County and Forsyth County, and just go trap up there and sell weed. Um, oh man.
The great story.
I have not told these stories in years. In years.
Oh,
um,
I'm
so,
so glad. Yeah. Oh,
so we hopped. We'll refer to it as the booger now. We hopped into the booger, and we would go, just her and I, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, man, it was nuts. And then, but as she began to see like what all I was doing, we grew closer emotionally. Long story short, she uh she tells me that she's pregnant. And at first both of us were like, no, like we're not equipped to be parents.
right.
I sure as hell wasn't. In no way, shape, or form was I equipped to be a dad. No, no. I had no job, an illegal business, a bad attitude, a lack of patience, and was probably one of the most egocentric, just prideful. Can I use the word d-bag in here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was one of the most just prideful douchebags you would have ever met. Um, horrible human being. Horrible human being. Um, so we ended up making the decision, look, um, I'm going to go and find a legitimate job. Uh, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing as much as I can, but, more than likely, um, it might take a bit of a dive. I got to try to be legit. So I thought, and I worked for a little while down in Athens, and I ended up moving up to Ackworth, the Red Top Mountain area.
Yeah, yeah. Cartersville.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, basically that little halfway point between Cartersville and Ackworth. And I moved up there, and I had probably so I used to make my own concentrates. Um, wax. I'm sure maybe there's been a couple times, and when you were working in the department, you might have saw it at one point. It's like
Yeah.
yeah,
Butter.
yeah, butter, like kind of like a taffy kind of material.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, it's just concentrated THC. Uh, it costs about $10 to make, and stupid kids will pay $100 to buy it. Um, that's just what it was. Um, so I came up there with all of that, and I probably had like, I don't know, probably $2,000 or $3,000 worth of the stuff with me. And I didn't have a vehicle. The something had taken place with my forerunner. I had to. The booger did not belong to me. The booger was actually my mom's,
Okay.
and I paid her to obtain the booger. And by pay her, I mean it's like, hey, I'm going to take you out to dinner here and there.
As long as I get to borrow the car. Yeah.
She knew little increments,
Right. Yeah.
snippets of information, and we'll keep it that way. So this had this Chevrolet S10, and my stupid self was so desperate for a vehicle. I gave him probably $3,000 of product for
Oh.
$1,000 just just back and forth to my job. I managed to speak with a dear friend of mine, Josh Wise, over at Grassroots Tree and Turf Care. He gave me my old job back and was like, "Yeah, man, come on back. You know, dude,
Yeah.
know what you're doing. We don't got to train you. You know, just come back and work for us." Okay, so
That's awesome.
yes. So I needed this truck so desperately that I spent $3,000 for a $1,000 truck.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Horrible financial decision. So
It's funny that he took it.
yeah, and her dad was I could give you a million and one stories. He's a character. Um, so so we ended up falling on some hard times, and of course, we'll just call this the next section of hell that I put myself back into. You can see that I clearly have a talent of putting myself in awful situations. It's magnificent. Um,
But then you look back and you're like, man, God, if not for all these things. And then
yes,
and that's when you see the organization in it. You're like, oh, it actually does have like some sort of like a plotted chart here. Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt, this was all. I would say my sinful decisions not orchestrated by God, but these life lessons were orchestrated by God. I
Right.
would say that.
Yep.
You know, so we fell on hard times. We were trying to move out of her parents' house, and I ended up linking up with an old associate from when I was in the Mapleton, Smyrna area, and I linked up with him, and he and I we started moving bud together again. Started selling pot.
Hmm.
We Let me tell you how quickly this happened. This happened within a 2.5 year span. All right, 2.5 years. All right, so I'll just try to compress all of this down as quickly as possible. So we were living in a double wide trailer for because we were poor broke stoners that didn't have, just, oh man, we were so, oh my gosh, we were such in hard times. So I got back into it again, and it went from the double wide trailer to we ended up moving into my boss's parents' old house, which
Boss's parents' old house. Okay.
parents' old house. I was moving product out of a company owned house.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
then we went from that to having a nice 4 bedroom, 3 bath house nestled in Cartersville.
Okay.
Just, dude, super nice community. I mean, it just, boom, it happened in such a short span of time.
Really.
And who would have thought, you know? So we we ended up moving into that nice house. I fell into this. Um, I wasn't really money oriented at that point because I mean, my son, yes, I was concerned about money. I wanted to make good income. Um, and I had kind of moved up the ladder in grassroots tree and turf care. I had gotten myself a service manager position for their Cartersville branch, and I was doing fairly well for myself. But again, it's hey, kids cost an abundance of money. That's no secret. So our relationship just fell apart at the seams. Things just weren't good between her and I. Um, I gained. I think when I at that point I was like 410 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was huge. Um, I gained an abundance of weight, and I was just, hey, look, I'm going to spend time with my kid. I'm going to go make money, and I just turned into just this spiteful, just upset little monster because my whole world was just falling apart.
Right.
Um, well, when I thought things couldn't get any worse, um, 2023 takes place, and my son's 4 years old at this time, and I had gone down to my job and my kid, and I got out of my brother Jacob's place, and Jacob and I were spending time together, and I get a phone call from my dad's girlfriend. She says, "Hey, listen, your father's gonna go to the hospital. We don't necessarily think it's anything major, but again, he wants to go to the hospital to get checked out." I'm like, okay, yeah, just look, man, just call me if you need me. I'm not too far away. I'm in Forsyth County, and about an hour goes by, and I get this phone call. Hey, look, they're having to put your father uh, intubator. Yeah, intubator. Um, I think you need to get up here. And I'm like, okay. Wasn't he just fine a little while ago? And I drive up there. It's Kennestone Hospital. And we go in. And at the time, it was just myself, or my dad's girlfriend and myself. And they basically come in and try to get some information from us, and then they explain what's going on. Look, your father's dealing with some internal bleeding. Okay. Um, and I'll never forget. So I hadn't had anything to do with my aunt April and my uncle Adrian for many years. Um, you know, that's a whole family spill. It's really not important for the sake of the story, but I hadn't really had much to do with them for a long time. But I was like, hey, you should probably talk to you know his brother and sister. They have a right to know. And his girlfriend called his brother, my uncle Brian, and we called my aunt April, and we basically just told the both of them, look, for the sake of being here for your brother, you should probably get up here. So they get up to the hospital, and the doctors come and talk to us the first time, and they were like, "Look, your father has some puddling of blood behind his organs. I guess he had taken a fall or something, according to his girlfriend, um, earlier that week, something of that nature. Although I still don't think the fall is what caused the issue. It's still quite a mystery, to be quite honest. Um, so they explained to us, look, we're gonna he's going through some kidney issues, and he's going through this puddling of the blood behind the organs. Um, we're gonna have to take him back for surgery. And we're like, okay, you know, he's he's a tough old man. He'll be fine. He'll get through this. And it's crazy because it all happened so quickly. We get the news that he's going to go back for surgery, and then the doctors come out a second time, and they tell us that he's had, I think, like four boxes of blood. I'm not sure what all that.
I'm not sure either.
I think that I would assume that's quite a bit of blood,
I
if I
would
had
too.
to guess.
Yeah.
Um, he's had four boxes of blood, and we can't keep his blood pressure stable. We're having a hard time. We're going to try one more thing, and this is all we can do. And they came out again, and basically, I was the only one of his kids standing there. And they invited us back to the hospital room to come and see him. I honestly wish I had never. It's indescribable for anybody that's ever really lost a parent like that. I can tell you that trip to the hospital room is hell. It'll mess your head up. I walk in, and I see all these things just connected to my dad, and this brown bloodish material being pushed through a straw out of his mouth, and then just him just split open. They had him covered up so I couldn't see where the incisions were made and how he was split. He was cut open. He was lying there, and these poor nurses and doctors were just moving in unison all at once. And it looked like the room was just kind of spinning to me at that moment. I actually ended up just kind of stepping out of the room, and just getting the hell away from the situation, just because of I didn't know how to mentally take it all in.
Uh-huh.
And you know,
I'm so sorry about that. That
it's trust me,
you're
dude.
you're right. I lost my dad not too long ago. It's been over a year, but getting the phone call, having to get on the road and hurry up and get there, and I just I wanted to see him one last time, just because he was going to be cremated, so I knew I wouldn't get the chance again. So yeah, I mean, when your superhero's gone, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? That's our first superhero, our dads.
yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No, no. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's so the the doctors, they finally come. They had put our family into this waiting room, just a private waiting room. And the doctor came down, and he starts discussing everything with the family. And like the worst situation that could have happened. Who's his next of kin? And the whole room looks at me. And he basically tells me if he were to come out of this situation, he would never be the same again. And we're telling you it's not possible that he's going to come out of this situation. I basically told them to make him comfortable. And at 11 p.m., my dad was deceased. I received the news on August the 12th of 2023 at around 12:30, 1 o'clock, something like that. 10 hours later, my dad's gone. And my whole world goes in shambles because my father and I just really reconstructed a decent relationship with one another. And long story short, on that part of it at least, my family starts coordinating his celebration of life. My father was also cremated, so I know how that is. His celebration of life, my aunt April's up there, my uncle Adrian's at the hospital, and from there, the whole family just got together and created this one beautiful celebration of life at a little place called Taverna. Um, my dear friend Galen McDaniel was actually so generous enough to he owns the place, and we were so blessed to be able to celebrate my father's life there.
Very cool.
And now that the sad part and the hard part's over with, here's from the rest. It's just up from there. I began to develop this after the celebration of life. I latched onto my Aunt April. I did. I latched onto her so heavily. I would go over to her house and I would talk to her and just sit back and just reminisce about my dad and we were trying to resolve. There was some issues with finances and stuff involved. Obviously, after a deceased relative, it tends to happen. And my sister and I, and my dad's ex-wife Dawn, which is my sister Jenna's mother, all of us were just dealing with this gigantic headache. And I latched on my Aunt April, and she at first it was like it was so weird because at first it was just like we began to just kind of casually begin to talk about the Lord, and I hey, look, I grew up around a very biblical grandmother. Um, I know a decent amount about the Bible. I said quite a bit in Sunday school and church. Um, and one day something really weird happened. So prior to my full submission, I knew that I was saved. I knew that, I believed in a God. I knew that, that the Lord was real, but I wasn't living it. I wasn't, prior to all of that, I just wasn't living the way that I ought to be living. And we go to this little coffee shop. It's a Christian owned coffee shop here in Cartersville. And I was wearing I used to have like a really big obsession. 2 years ago, I had a really big obsession with just hardcore punk rock bands.
Okay.
I had this band T-shirt on. It had it had a pentagram and a goat on it. Just something you shouldn't probably wear to a Christian establishment. So it's weird because I was in there and I immediately felt bad about the apparel that I had on. And both my aunt April and I both found it extremely strange that I was like, hmm, why why did that just casually come up in conversation? And so I began to explain my testimony to my aunt April. And slowly but surely, as she began to know me a little more, the two of us. So she invited me to church one Sunday, and I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know. Like, I know church. I know I'm supposed to be there, but I don't know about that.
Right.
And so finally I went. Finally, I sucked it up. I said, look, I'm going to get her to quit nagging and I'm going to go. And I went. And uh, I got there and the music made me very emotional. But then when it got down to the gospel being proclaimed is when it just really hit me so heavily.
Mhm.
And I realized I'm like, man, this is what I've been missing. I've done all of these horrible, terrible things. I've suffered so much loss. This is what I've been missing. And I just kept going back. I kept going back. I kept visiting different churches. I became a member of a local congregation up in Adairsville, Georgia. Was baptized in that church. And I had two real encounters with the Lord. And this is all going to sound crazy to you, and if it does to you and your listeners, I'm sorry, but
Lay it on us. Lay it on.
man, this is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. So when I had first gotten back into church and fully just decided, look, the Lord's, not decided. I came to this realization. Look, the Lord is pulling you in. You're meant to be a part of this. This is something that you need in your life. He is calling out to you. He chose you. And I came to this realization. And I'm sitting in my house one day, man, and I'm just my aunt had bought me this devotional by um Jason Cruz. It's called The Man Minute, and it's just this book of just different stories and daily devotionals. And I sat there and I was just in the midst of this daily devotional, and I was like, I just kind of put my hands up just casually, and I'm like, look, I just want your presence to be known. I just want to know that you're here. All of a sudden, I feel a set of hands go over the back of my shoulders, and I feel a warm grip on my palm. There's just slightly right here. It's if I had to describe it, it's like if you just quickly warm something up in the microwave in a napkin, and you take it out, and that napkin's got like that little bit of moisture and heat to it. That's the best way I can describe it. And I just bawled. I broke down. I bawled. I couldn't stop crying, and I realized like, okay, this is legitimate. This isn't just storybooks told from Genesis to Revelation. This is real.
Right. Yep.
This is legit. And shortly after that, I received my call to preach, and this confirmation to go to seminary. And this is where things get really, really weird, really, really fast. Because again, I knew quite a bit about the scripture. I grew up in it. It's something that I was decently familiar with. But I would just say on a congregate level, you know, okay, yeah, I can recite John 3:16. It was a memory verse. You know, yes, Jonah in fact went to Nineveh. I knew the basic level stuff.
Right.
I then just kind of began to pull apart the scriptures and what was being revealed to me through the divinely inspired word of God just broke me. It absolutely shattered everything that I had ever believed in. Um, I almost felt like I was going crazy for a minute there. I did. I legitimately felt like I was going crazy. Um, I'm in the shower one day, and I get this. I'm just kind of sitting there, just scrubbing my head, scrubbing my body, and this this vision hits me out of nowhere, and it's me walking through a field, just a Bible in one hand, and I'm just proclaiming the gospel in the midst of this field.
Wow.
And then I get hit with a piece of scripture. For the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Ooh, I like it.
And I realized right then and there, like, oh no, there's much more to this than what you think it is. And I began to just dig and dig and dig and dig into the scripture. Then I began. Now, mind you, this is only 2 years ago, man. This is only 2 years ago. This is like when I tell you like this transformation has happened in the course of 2 years. If I had to put like a more exact number on it, I would say this transformation has been ongoing for a little over 5 years now. If I had to put, from more than five, yeah, from the time my son was born to now, just what all good things that have taken place. Yes, some loss has happened there, but
Right.
sorry, I don't mean to get off topic.
No, there's a lot to say.
Um, so I then go from just studying to preaching in my place of work. At the time, I'd worked in a factory, and I would drive around and find people that looked like they just, you would just come across them. And I mean, it was a hot, murky, muggy factory. It was miserable. Nobody in there was happy. Take this as an opportunity. Go and preach the word to that person. Go and share Christ with them. And I began to periodically do so. Then it turned into, okay, you're overweight. Okay, fine. You're gonna get out in these parks. You're gonna go walk every day, and you're gonna proclaim the word. Then
Like it.
you're gonna start hiking. You're gonna meet people on trails. You're gonna discuss the gospel. Then. And I then just started doing my research in the seminary. And it's funny because I came across this little bitty seminary in Cartersville called Antioch Bible College and Seminary. It's on the top of a church. Like you blink, you'll miss it. It doesn't even look like a school.
Really?
And the teachers over there, they invited me to come in and sit in a couple of lessons. You know, hey, look, don't worry about it. We can talk about the financial aspect of it afterwards. Just come and see if this is what you, if this is how you doctrinally align. If you agree with what we teach in this school. Obviously, every seminary can teach a variety of different doctrines.
Right.
Anyway, um, I go there and the teachers and I just clicked. It was like I had been sitting in this class for years. I knew some of the things that they were discussing. I agreed with 90% of 100% of what they were talking about. Just everything fell into place, one after the other. I truly began to submit and live under this lordship of Jesus Christ, to sharing his word, to going to school, to now I have become a assistant pastor for a local congregation here.
That's amazing. That's crazy. I mean, like, that's such a cool story. And a couple of things I want to clarify is telling yourself and then going out, we'll say, to a park on a walk and proclaiming the Lord. Is it scarier to do that, or is it scarier to sell drugs, you think?
Oh man.
Two totally different fears. I know, two totally different fears. But that's so funny that like a big bad, like ready to brawl, ready to rock, you know what I mean, in the industry coke dealer on the other side of the spectrum, when speaking for the Lord. I don't know. I get nervous when I talk about the Lord sometimes. You know what I mean? Because it's just. But then you have to just be like, well, first I should let you answer the question. Which would you agree that they're both scary in their own respects?
Man, I'll tell you, um, you step in front of a pulpit for the first time, right? Um, I'll have to send you my first sermon. I was petrified. Actually, you can connect it to the link of this so people can understand how scared I was.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
um, so, man, selling bags on the street is extremely scary because you're more worried about the the apprehension, just getting caught by the cops, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing about the gospel is that, you know, Paul tells us in Galatians chapter 1, you know, if any man preach to you any other gospel contrary to the one that we've taught to you, let him be accursed.
Yeah.
He stands condemned. So when you're approaching this pulpit, right?
Yeah.
Most people just think it's looking out into a crowd and just proclaiming the greatness of the Lord, and yes, it is.
Right.
But what scares you the most is when you come to the realization: if I misinterpret this scripture, if I build a doctrine off of this, and this exposition that I have studied and labored over is wrong, I not only mislead some members of the flock of who are in Christ Jesus, but I stand condemned before the Lord.
See, that's a good sign for you that you actually consider that, because I think the people that's really referring to are the ones, just from my layman's experience, are the ones who are driving or flying around in the $1 million jets and like all that kind of stuff. Anyways, but the fact that you're able to be like, I got to be careful with this because I'm not just speaking for myself. That's profound. That's good that you see that before it even happens. That's great. And I love how God uses people who like you would never expect, like, but no one else would have the experiences that you have and could potentially reach the people that you can reach with your story and your testimony. Is just such a beautiful thing. And how, what is it? Of course, I'm forgetting when the second son comes back and he's so ashamed of what he's done and you know, uh, living in earthly pleasures and all that kind of stuff. And he comes back saying, I don't even deserve a seat at the table. Just let me stay with the slaves, and like how terrible, he felt about that. But then his dad sees him and runs to him, and accepts him back. And he's excited that he's back. He's not mad that he left. He's excited that he's back. And so like I'm learning that's kind of like if I can apply that sort of in my world a little bit, because I like I've been the number one thing between me and a relationship with God. And it's been a kind of a tricky thing for a long time for me. It involves some childhood trauma, it involves me believing some stuff that I should have never believed, and like all this kinds of stuff. But it's just so funny because like you feel a lot of times like, why would he use me, or I'm unworthy and all that kind of stuff. And he doesn't care. He just keeps showing up in people's lives who need help and who are strong and are in a way that they don't even comprehend. The fact that you were able to go through so much and then now sit here and share that whole story. I mean, holy smokes, man. Like that's inspirational right there. And the fact that you said something when you saw the thing on the side of my truck, my floating billboard, which I'm trying to make, um, that's amazing too. I mean, I feel honored that you came on here and you blessed us with your story. That's so so cool, and I would love for you to get me over. Well, get me any information having to do with if you want people to contact you. If you want that, you don't have to have that. Or where they can check you out, or the first sermon, whatever you want to do. If you don't want to do any of that, once you think about it for a minute, that's fine. Um, but besides that, sir, I mean, so you just feel compelled to share your testimony. That's like what the Lord has put in you, and like that's how it started. Is first sharing the good word, if you will, or the gospel, but you're able to share your testimony along at the same time, so that when someone looks back at you and says, "What do you know about tough times?" You're like, "I got you."
And one of the things that I think a lot of people in ministry seem to forget is that, like, man, when you stand before these broken people, it's yes, the gospel, the good news itself is the main priority of yes, what the Lord did at Calvary was such a major, wonderful event. And if it were not for that death and resurrection upon the third day, salvation would not be possible. Yes, that is the truth. But Paul in the first epistle to Corinth, he begins to explain how he gets to the level of some of these individuals in the church of Corinth to begin to relate with them. When you were weak, I was also weak. He tries to get on their level and explain to them why the significance of following these commandments, these instructions of Christ Jesus, and how the church should have functioned at that point in time. And the reason why I say this is that when you come to an individual that is broken, to show them that you yourself have also been broken. You may not be able to relate to their situation, but you come to them with respect and humility.
Yeah.
Come to them with respect and humility, showing them, I am trying to get at your level, to inform you that I too have also been in my own horrendous storms.
Uh-huh.
But because I now have built my foundation upon the solid rock,
Hmm.
cornerstone, which is Christ.
Yeah.
When the rains come and the winds blow, there won't be a great fall.
Hmm.
It won't move. It won't. This is just another storm. It'll pass.
Yeah. I learned that, when you build yourself up with other things besides that solid foundation, that house can get toppled pretty quickly. And you kind of look around, you're like, what happened? But then I heard someone say to me when I was at rock bottom, and I thought they were kind of trying to cut into me at the time, but they said rock bottom is a great foundation to start with. And I was like, again, at the time, I was like, good cut, good comment, thanks. But now I'm like, I say that to people because it's so true. Like, if you've already lost everything, you get to start anew. And people think sometimes that means that, they have to chase after the life they had. Maybe there's something better, and who knows? We all seem to be having our own walk in this life, and we all keep running into all these amazing things along the way. And yeah, a lot of our stories do show pain and they do show trials, but they also show growth and they show kindness in places you wouldn't expect it, grace, mercy, and yeah, I am in no way a good example to follow. I lose my temper at times and stuff like that, but I do try to get better, and I'm starting to learn that just someone trying is more means more than anything. Just that someone, like you said, notices them doing stuff in their own lives and it doesn't sit right. And they're not sure why, but they're kind of like they notice it. And then after time, it kind of becomes something bigger and bigger. And eventually, you're enrolling in seminary school. Do you have anything like last bit you want to get in there that was kind of burning a hole in your soul?
Oh man. Um.
If not, there's going to be opportunities where you can come on again because you're on a journey. And if I could check on you in your journey, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
al- I'm also I'm also in the area, so I mean, if we can help one another, that'd be great too. Um, yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff going on, and I really feel like there's a shift in the environment in the last like 5 years, if you will. there's almost like a calling or like a necessity to go figure out what God's about, because I don't know, there's just a lot of things shifting in the world and all that kind of stuff, and God's doing everything in his own timing, never early, we never know what's going to happen. Otherwise, I don't know. Half of us wouldn't sign up for the journey, and it wouldn't be as exciting. You wouldn't learn as much. So,
Yeah.
anyways, it's been an absolute pleasure and a blessing, Michael. Thank you so much. I'm not sure when I'm going to put this episode out. I've definitely got a couple episodes ahead of it, but I will reach out to you before I do, and I'll email you with a link to it.
Okay, sounds great.
So what did you think of the experience? Was it good for you to, it's meant
Man,
to also be a podium for a person to stand on, speak their truth, and in doing that, process it. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you did pull those stories out for quite a while, but now you got to pull it out with new eyes, in a new day, in a new, setting. I mean, obviously you're not 400 pounds anymore, so you've done a lot of work on that. And I know that can be hard because you find yourself in a hole, not only spiritually and mentally, but now you look at yourself physically and you're like, now I'm even fucking deeper. Like I gained 100 pounds after I got shot, and it was just because I was drinking and eating whatever. I didn't care. I was ready to die. But then like when I had to get back on my feet, now I had to kind of fix that. But you know, getting sober definitely helped. And I was like, well, if I'm not drinking, I might as well eat right. That's how big of an addict you are. You know what I mean? You're like, if I can't have alcohol, I can do without food. Like, that's such a backwards way of thinking about it. But yeah, very cool. I will reach out to you, my friend, and thank you so much. Have a great holiday weekend, and enjoy your mission. Where are you going?
we are going to go to the affected areas of Western North Carolina. We're going to go back. We're going to go in there and proclaim the good news to people, pass out water, pamphlets, box fans, air
That's
conditioning
awesome.
units, things of that nature.
I will pray for you, sir, in your journey, and I will reach out to you before I post this episode. Thank you so much, and God bless.
God bless, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, take care, bud.
See you. Bye.
Subscribe so you make sure you're getting the up-to-date episode every week. Thank you so much.